All right, it's time for the kickoff. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the kickoff of GitLab 10.7. We haven't even released 10.6 yet, but that's how we do it every single month. On the background, you hear my dog walking around nervously because it's going to be another very, very exciting release. It's the second to last release before releasing GitLab 11. And there's a lot to discuss, so I'm going to hand it over immediately to Victor, who's going to tell what is coming in discussion in 10.7. Victor, go ahead.
Sure. So with the discussion part of the product, we are pushing ahead with portfolio management, as we've been doing for a good number of releases now. And so right now that is focused on epics and roadmaps. So if you haven't already used either feature, I encourage you to do so inside the GitLab.org group for GitLabbers in particular. So we've been working on the past couple of issues in the past couple of releases, these couple of issues in the past couple of releases, and we're slated to ship epic comment thread in 10.7. So that means you're able to leave comments in an epic, so truly allowing you to collaborate on epics just like in issues. And you'll see system notes as well for as you're adding and removing issues, mentioning other epics and merge requests and so forth. Searching and filtering is something that we already have with epics in 10.6. So as Yo mentioned, when that is released in a couple of weeks, you'll be able to search and filter in the epics view for author as well as labels. So we already are going to have that support for the epics page, but that will be taken and applied to the roadmap page as well. So that's really, really exciting. And in addition, the roadmap, you'll be able to navigate in time. Right now, it's time boxed to ±3 months as our first release that we did in 10.5. But I'm excited to say that in 10.7, we plan to allow you to move however you want in time. Moving to other parts of discussion, we're going to have continue to have true subgrouping support. So we've introduced subgroups into GitLab a good while ago, I believe in 9. And we're catching up really quickly with leveraging subgroups inside issues and merge requests. So in particular, right now, inside an issue list on the group level, you can see actually all the issues, and same for the merge requests, you can see all merge requests from subgroups inside the group list itself. So that's something we shipped in 10.5. And then we're going to do the same for 10.7. We're going to add more features in 10.7. So not only can you see issues, subgroups issues in the group list, you can see them also in the group boards, and also you can start to see labels as well. So giving you that true flexibility of subgrouping with issues, merge requests, and labels and milestones is to come as well. But we're going to be focusing on issues and labels and merge requests from that perspective. We're continuing to redesign and clean up some of our pages, and in particular milestones and labels. So do click through there to see some of the awesome designs our UX team put together. Letter H is our dashboard. So if you click the issues or merge request button in the top right corner in the dashboard or in the navigation top bar, you'll go to a page to see all merge requests and issues inside your GitLab instance. And right now, there's because we're searching for so many objects inside GitLab, if you don't apply a filter, it will time out, and we want to make that experience better. And so we're doing some work with respect to that. And then finally, I wanted to end off with 2 really quick premium features. Batch commenting is something that we've worked in the past couple of releases where we're getting a lot of our code up to snuff so that we can truly support it. And I'm excited that to say that we're getting really, really close and shooting to have something released in 10.7 for batch commenting. So that's the ability to leave multiple comments and then publish all at once by clicking one button instead of publishing multiple times or commenting multiple times and sending multiple emails to the people who receive those notifications. They would receive just one notification. And then finally, a custom email text for all emails. That seems sort of weird and esoteric, but what that essentially boils down to is that we're allowing users, or in particular admins, to configure a custom snippet of text, as it were, and have that be included in all emails that are sent from your GitLab instance. So why that's important is that for some industries where there's a lot more regulation, or there's some legalese that we need to attach inside emails. You know, sometimes you see emails in your day-to-day, it says something like, don't read this, or like, don't print it. That type of thing is important for some of our enterprise customers. And we want to bring that feature over to GitLab Premium to extend that flexibility. So I'm excited to say that that's something we're going to ship in 10.7. Fabio, you're up.
Yeah, Victor, thank you. Wow, really huge amount of features coming. On CI/CD side, we are also shipping a lot of new things. I want to highlight the most important ones. First of all, we are implementing project tokens that will allow you to deploy your applications, for example, in Kubernetes, and allow access to the repo, but mainly to the registry, even after the deploy job is over. So actually, there is a flow that is working, but if the pod should be restarted, and so the image should be fetched again from the GitLab registry, and the project is private, you cannot, because the credentials are ephemeral. With this new feature, you will be provided with permanent credentials that you can manage similar to the personal access tokens, but project-wide, and this will allow you to create more stable deployments. We also want to make scaling for deployments a first-class citizen in GitLab. And so at the moment, you can just use variables to do the scaling, but there is no easy way to do it. And people may be not aware of that. So we decided to promote this feature as a first class. And you will find inside the deployment view, the environment view, a way to see which are the actual parameters and to act on them in order to easily scale and redeploy your applications on Kubernetes. We also want to empower our GKE integration for Kubernetes clusters. And so we want to fetch available parameters directly from GKE. This means that users don't need to go on the GKE or GCP dashboard anymore in order to know, for example, which is the project name, the GCP project name associated to their projects. They will find it automatically in the GitLab UI, so removing a lot of dependencies to external pages. We are also finishing the story about extending only and accept keywords in the GitLab CI YAML file to support variables evaluation, so you can define variable expressions in order to figure out if you want to run a job or not for a specific pipeline. Then we are also working on very interesting features for our security products team. First of all, we are splitting dependency scanning reports from the SAST report in the CI view and in the merge request widget. This means that now you can access what is traditional SAST, so security static application, static analysis of the application, from what is dependency scanning. The most artist name that you can know about is Gymnasium. That is obviously the dependency scanning we are empowering now. We also want to support SAST for C++ applications in our goal to support the bigger variety of languages possible for our security tools. And we also are working on whitelisting false positives. This is a very huge problem nowadays in the security scanning world. You run automatic scanning, but the results are not 100% usable because of the security issues that are just false positive. With whitelisting, that we're also trying to do an automatic way when possible, you will be able to filter out what is not really a security issue and focus on what is very important there. And the last point here, but obviously not the only thing we're working on, is enriching SAST report with more metadata. So we now have a very good way to give feedback to users. We want to enrich it even more and giving information that are specific to vulnerabilities, so users can better understand which is the impact, which is the possible solution for that. And after they know about that, it is easier to move to a solution. And that's all for security products. What about platform, Jeremy?
Hey, thanks a lot for that, Fabio. That was awesome. So I've got one effort that I'd really like to highlight and I'm particularly excited about. So I'm really excited about making our hosted offering on GitLab.com better and more valuable for our users. And one piece of feedback we always receive is that large-scale user management without having single sign-on is a real challenge. It's just not possible to kind of manage thousands of users in an organization without having some kind of automated solution for this. So we're adding it. And we're starting with SAML SSO at the group level. So In 10.7, we'll be able to offer groups on GitLab.com at the silver level of the ability to configure a SAML identity provider and use it to manage membership for a group, both for adding new members via an SSO URL and also removing them. So to emphasize, this will be a beta and a first iteration, but it's a problem we're super dedicated and excited to solve. And we'll continue to iterate on this so we can make managing members for GitLab.com hosted members super, super easy. So that's all that I've got for that. But I know the platform is working on a bunch of really, really cool and awesome stuff. So James, over to you.
Thanks, Jeremy. That's going to be so useful for GitLab.com. In 10.6, we've got a couple of other really exciting platform improvements that we're working on. We're continuing to work on external access, external policy control. And particularly, we're looking at improving the ability to use it without a configured service URL in a permissive mode for customers that want to do that. And also improving the detail of logging. So customers that are keen to have really fine-grained access control through an external system are often very interested in logging every single access request. So we'll be providing a new access log to make that information available. We're also continuing to work on the project export and import API. So in 10.6, we're introducing APIs for both import and export, and we're really thankful for the community members that have helped out in adding the export API. One of the things we're going to be improving in 10.7 is adding support for LFS objects. So currently our project exports don't include LFS objects, which is a bit of a problem if you're using LFS in your repository. And we'll also be extending the export API with support for providing a direct upload URL. And this is really useful if you're using project exports to do a backup of one repository or move a project from one server to another. You're probably going to upload it to an external storage location and then download it from there. So this will allow you to provide a pre-signed S3 URL or something like that, and then we'll upload it directly to that URL. And it also means if you're automating the export and import tasks on the server where you're doing all the exports, your drive won't end up filling up with all these really large archives that sit around for 24 hours because we're able to upload them immediately. As soon as they're uploaded, we can delete them. So that'll make the feature much more useful in that application. One of the other really exciting features we're bringing is an improvement to protected branches. So in a lot of organizations, the master branch is locked down so that only a couple of people can approve merge requests to it. No one can push to it directly. This is really good practice. But the one exception is masters can always push to the master branch. And so this is a problem for tightly regulated environments where they need to make sure that no one, absolutely no one can push to the master branch, and everything that makes it in there is reviewed. And so we're adding a new feature that will allow you to limit it to only an admin can remove that rule. At the moment, the master can remove the rule, change the rule, but we'll be changing it so that there's a new option. So a master, sorry, getting these confused. The admin can add a rule that only an admin can remove. And so that is going to be the highest level of protected branch that we'll offer in 10.7. Also, in Ultimate, we're continuing to improve the web IDE, and it will be generally available in 10.7. And we've got some great improvements with a fuzzy finder, file finder coming, so you can quickly jump between files. We're improving the user workflows to jump back to where you came from. So if you come from a specific file or project, there'll be a back button, so you can quickly bail back to where you wanted to be when you're done reading or editing. And one really useful feature is around staging individual files. So you can, rather than making a change and it immediately being staged, you'll be able to stage and unstage each file as you go, so that you can make small atomic commits, which, as we all know, is the right way to commit changes. And finally, we're adding the support for an OmniAuth JWT provider for authentication. And this will provide access, provide an authentication workflow for customers that want to use JSON Web Tokens to authenticate their users, rather than one of our existing SSO providers. So that's it on the platform team, which is a lot, but there is more coming from the Geo team. We're continuing to work on background verification of repositories, LFS objects, uploads, and artifacts. When you're using Geo to create a replica for disaster recovery purposes, it's really important that you know that your replica is accurate and complete. If you're going to fail over, you don't want to have files to not be there or repositories to be corrupt and you not know until the disaster happens and you fail over. So we want to automate this process. So continuously in the background, we'll be verifying that the secondaries are accurate and complete. So administrators will be able to come in and view the status of the verification on the primary and secondary to make sure that everything's ready for hopefully the disaster that never comes. And it's also will be helpful for debugging issues where a secondary potentially gets out of date or into an unexpected state. So that'll be a very useful feature for our customers using GitLab Geo. We're also improving failover and disaster recovery for multi-secondary configurations. Geo can be used in two ways. One for providing improved performance for distributed teams. And so if you're running in more than two distinct geographic locations, you may spin up 3 instances. You'll have 1 primary and 2 secondaries. At the moment, we only support disaster recovery if you have 1 secondary, which means that our customers that are making the most use of geo replication for performance don't have a documented process for failing over if their primary goes down. So we'll be adding detailed documentation and making sure that process works well for those kind of configurations too. And one other change that we're working on in the Geo team is continuing to move hash storage towards general availability. And so the next step on that process is freezing the namespace of projects. So this will allow us to enable hash storage in sort of a partial sense without having to move every project on disk. So for large instances at the GitLab.com scale or large enterprise scale, migrating to hash storage requires moving every single repository to a new location on disk. And so we are building sort of incremental steps so that the migration can be tackled in a lower risk fashion. And we'll be testing this on GitLab.com, hopefully in the next few releases when GitLab.com moves to hash storage. We don't have a specific time frame for that, but that's our goal, and that'll be the test for general availability. Joshua, how are you doing?
Yeah, thanks, James. That's all really exciting. In particular, I can't wait for the GA of the Web IDE. That's super exciting, plus all the features coming out for that. I know I do a couple edits here and there using the Web UI, and making it even better would be really exciting. Also exciting is updates we have coming for the monitoring team. One of the major features we have lined up for 2018 we want to add to the capabilities of our platform is to augment our existing metric support, where you can pull back things like CPU memory utilization, throughput, error rates, is to take that base and add onto it support for tracing. And we're looking to do this with open tracing and Jaeger integrations, similar to what we've done with Prometheus. This will provide a lot greater detail as far as how your application is performing. If you have any kind of slow DB queries, for example, what is actually going on within your code. The cause, for example, is error rates or those perhaps increased latencies. So we're excited about this, and we want to start getting moving here in 10.7 towards delivery of sort of the first iteration of our tracing support. So to do that, what we're looking to do first is to get some prototypes going and get some engineering work done to really understand the best way to talk with Jaeger, and also how to best build our UI. And so we want to exit this release with kind of that understanding nailed down, and so we can head into 10.8 with a firm plan and execution. And we've done a lot of the risk reduction already with some kind of basic working prototype to hit it and get a UI showing. So that's what we're trying to do here, and make sure we have time to get that done and carved out in this release, which will again lay the foundation here for our next one. Also laying the foundation for 10.8 would be the ability to deploy Jaeger to a connected Kubernetes cluster. So we have some really nice support within GitLab to integrate with the Kubernetes cluster, even to provision one on GKE if you don't have one. And along with that is the ability to also deploy applications that we use. So for example, you can deploy Prometheus to Kubernetes with a single click, and we automatically deploy it. You can even talk to it through Kubernetes, so you don't have to worry about exposing it externally to the internet if in the event that GitLab is not, for example, on the same network segment. So we're looking to expand that support also to include Jaeger for much the same reasons. Again, make it easy to deploy, as well as offering some ability to transit across the internet, for example, to the cluster without having Jaeger totally exposed as well. So some great support there coming up to this release, again, to kind of help pave the way for greater things coming in future releases. We're also looking to take advantage of our metrics base we have now and adding the ability to add alerting on top of it. So what you'll be able to do in this release is to add an alert for a particular threshold. Say, for example, if you want to take a look at error rates and if they exceed, for example, 2% or 5% or whatever your service level objective is, you can set those and then get alerts emailed out to you in the event that an alert is triggered. And you can do this on any metric that we're planning to support, as well as any Jaeger itself if you have premium with custom metrics that we shipped this past release here as well, or shipping, I guess we should say, in 2 weeks here. So that's really exciting and will help to round out a lot of the metric support that we have. And so we're really excited about this. And there's more to come here, of course, on the alerting side as well, as that is our sort of first iteration to get the basic value of setting and getting alerts within GitLab. We're also looking to bring some additional enhancements to our performance dashboard. So right now we've got a great flag, which can present a lot of key information on the UI as far as point-in-time data. But we're also looking to enhance our legend with some additional summary data, right? So you get information in particular on, for example, the maximum or the average values across the time span you're looking at to help give you some additional insight into what's going on. And then changing gears a little bit from monitoring applications that organizations deploy using GitLab to monitoring GitLab itself, we're looking to GA our Ruby metrics. So we've been shipping metrics support within GitLab for a lot of its components already, kind of defaulted on with Prometheus. And we're looking to enhance this with the Ruby metrics, which have been experimental for a couple of releases now, as we've been working through some performance improvements and also managing some of the metrics and the cardinality of them. And we're now had this running at the GitLab.com scale for a couple of weeks quite successfully. And so now we've got kind of crossed that bridge, we're ready to go ahead and make this on by default for everyone. And so you can see some that goal there, as well as also we're looking to try and get this to function as expected on some of the container images out there as well, since we do utilize /temp. And so there's a couple of things we perhaps need to do there to make sure that all is working correctly and as expected. So that's some exciting improvements there for the monitoring team. Really excited about that. We also have some great improvements coming as well for distribution. We delivered in a prior release here some great integration with Let's Encrypt to make it easier for folks to enable SSL and secure their GitLab installations. Previously, you had, of course, go out and purchase an SSL certificate or manually go through and do the Let's Encrypt authentication and authorization dance. And so we took a lot of the effort out of that by making it simply a flag you can set within the GitLab RB. And we got a lot of usage out of that and some feedback, which is great. And we want to go ahead and take this release to make it on by default. And so essentially, if you were to set in your external URL, https:// your domain, but you didn't actually give us any SSL certificates, we'll go ahead and assume that meant you want us to use Let's Encrypt. And so previously, of course, in this case, reconfigure would just fail and you'd be in it with a broken installation. But in this case, we're going to go ahead and enable Let's Encrypt by default for you and get you set up and running with HTTPS, again, with some valid trusted certificates, which is great. We're also on point number 3 there, going to go ahead and if you perhaps forget to specify a protocol, we'll go ahead and assume you meant HTTPS because we all kind of want to default towards secure installations. And so we'll go ahead and attempt to use a Let's Encrypt as well in that scenario. Of course, in all these scenarios, we do try the staging APIs first. So we're not going to go ahead and trip any limits here. So we only go ahead and use production if staging already passed, which is a nice feature there to make sure we play nicely with any kind of production API limits on the Let's Encrypt side. Another key enhancement, of course, to making this on by default is we want to make sure that we can renew the certificates automatically. Let's Encrypt tends to have shorter renewal durations than, or shorter lifetimes of certificates than, say, certificates you'd buy from other CAs. And so it's important to make sure we can go ahead and automatically renew them. And we'll add that support here inside of this release. And looking to probably package some type of job system, whereas before we relied on you to go ahead and edit your cron or add it to your cron yourself. We tend not to try and automate the cron job process, as we don't want to touch that file for a number of reasons. So we'll go ahead and try and put this all internally, which is great. And we can then use that going forward for any other kind of scheduled job resource we want to try and use as well. We're also going to be making some key enhancements here along the way to our cloud native charts. We'll be launching them in alpha later this month, and we'll be continuing to iterate on this over time here. We're working out a process to have weekly iterations. We're moving at a pretty fast clip here, both on the containers as well as on the chart side. And so we want to make sure we can deliver enhancements and fixes and changes rapidly to customers and folks who are trying this out. And so we're looking to have a weekly cadence here of new container images, new Helm charts, and that way we can, again, iterate quite quickly here outside of the standard, of course, kind of monthly release process here, since this is a new experimental alpha way of consuming the whole, essentially, architecture, right? So new containers, new charts, and so we have some flexibility here to go quite fast and move efficiently. So we'll leverage that here with that weekly iteration issue. We're also looking to bring CE support as well. So we're deploying a lot on object storage right now to remove the need for a shared storage service. And we tried to get object storage to CE in 10.6. Unfortunately, didn't quite make it. So they're arriving in 10.7. And so that will arrive by virtue of weekly iterations, essentially. Whenever that gets merged, that week we'll also have support for CE. And so we're hoping to get that done even before 10.7 officially ships here. Again, some benefits there of that weekly iteration process. We're also looking to make some improvements to the IMS chart. We've got increasing feedback for RBAC support, and so we'll go ahead and get those changes merged in. And that way folks can more easily consume the kind of current beta charts in lieu of the cloud native charts that are coming. And get running on installations that have RBAC enabled more easily than kind of setting up these roles yourself. Other changes there is minor fixes and improvements. You can get a list there. Again, just making some improvements there. And another exciting bit of things here as we wrap up on the distribution side is we have all of these features essentially coming to Libre, which is great. So everyone will be able to take advantage of all these features and functionality, and that make essentially running and operating GitLab more friendly and easier to use, as well as, again, really improving our cloud native architecture and alignment in this release. So some great things, and really, I think if you look at across this list, this is really the best release ever. Much better than our previous releases. Comparing to 10.6, I think it's pretty clear here. So I'm super excited, and can't wait to see what comes in 10.8. So thanks everyone for attending, and we'll see you next month.